most don't pay attention to architecture around us unless it is some incredible architectural feat. Well, in this video, we're going to pay attention to some more architectural feats, ranging from China to the US to Mexico and France and beyond. Got it. Let's go visit Mexico! The Parthenon was an ancient Greek temple dedicated to the goddess Athena and built between 447 BC and 438 BC in Athens, Greece. Athens, Greece is a citadel that is most famous for its architecture, but perhaps one of the most famous buildings is the Parthenon. The Greeks had a fascinating knowledge of architecture, and the Parthenon reflects that immensely. The floor of the Parthenon is slightly bulged in the center, allowing water to run off and not gather in puddles throughout. The columns are about 1/8 of an inch wider in the center than the bottom, to give them the appearance of being straight even from a distance. The columns in front of Bronstein that you see are very similar, though I'd need to measure and see if they were also all bulged. The Greeks were incredible architects, and many of their buildings remain as archaeological sites to this day. Mesa Verde is often overlooked in the history of architecture, but is a highly important part of ancient North American architecture. Buildings first started in about 650 AD, but continued until the 12th century AD as the Indians who inhabited them kept building onto them. It is a series of cliff dwellings containing over 600 dwellings. It is located in Montezuma, Colorado, and today visitors can visit the Mesa Verde National Park and see the dwellings for themselves. The Great Wall of China can be seen from space, it's so large. In fact, many consider it to be one of the most amazing works of architecture in all of history. The wall was originally built as a way to prevent enemies from invading, but eventually it became used for other purposes, such as trading. It consists of 3,889 miles of actual wall made from stone, dirt, wood, brick, and other materials. The wall is now open for visitors to walk on it. El Castillo is an interesting architectural structure located at the top of Chichen Itza in Yucatan State, Mexico. It was built by the Mayans about 1000 AD and has become a famous archaeological site. Perhaps the most interesting feature is that twice a year during the spring and fall equinoxes, the shadows weave down the sides of the pyramid in a snake-like pattern. The shadows line up with several large snake heads. Also, 4 staircases, one on each side, allow ascension to the top of this pyramid where El Castillo sits. Each staircase is comprised of 91 steps, with one large step at the top, a sum of 365 steps, which is the same as the number of the days in a year. It is thought by many that the Mayans had an understanding of astronomy and the seasons. Whether or not the effect was intentional or not is impossible to know, but most evidence points towards a knowledge of astronomy. Moving on in time, we come to the Eiffel Tower. It was built from 1887 to 1889 as an entrance to the World's Fair. Originally, it was criticized by leading artists of the time, but over time it grew in popularity and has become a well-known symbol of France. The binocular entrance to the Chait building is a classic example of modern architecture and was designed by Claes Oldenburg and Kustje van Bruggen. Comparing it to the Parthenon, we can see how much architecture has changed over the years. The binocular entrance is a structure that looks like a very large-scale set of binoculars upended so as to make an arch of sorts. It is located in Los Angeles, California. Finally, we come to Washington, D.C., the capital of the United States, and is full of unique architecture. Many of the buildings were modeled after ancient architecture from the Greeks and the Romans. From the White House and the Constitution Hall to the Red Cross headquarters and the Treasury, architects designed similar features to those in ancient temples and public buildings. The columns on many of the buildings in Washington, D.C. reflects the same ideas as that of the columns of the Parthenon in Athens, Greece. It is intriguing to see how in some cases modern architecture is similar to that of ancient architecture, and in other cases, such as the binocular entrance and DAP, there are no similarities to ancient architecture.
As long as we're near DAP, we might as well talk about the Crosley Tower. Recently, the Architectural Digest named the UC's Crosley Tower among America's ugliest university buildings in the top 8.